My blast tick of the week is actually contained to this room, and
Oh,
it's
you're kidding.
it's your Deadpool and Wolverine. No, how funny would it be if I gave myself one? It's Ty's Deadpool and Wolverine review, which is marked for spoilers. So if you haven't seen it, I mean, probably click out of this podcast, but also you could skip ahead like I don't know an hour until we're done talking about Deadpool and Wolverine. Ty said, I always love when a theater claps or screams at big moments, but I typically don't join in. I didn't clap when Cap caught Mjolnir. I didn't cheer when Toby and Andrew popped up in No Way Home. But when I tell you, when Wesley fucking Snipes showed up as Blade, I raised my voice and said, no way. I couldn't help myself. Blade was the first superhero movie my dad showed me, and he's always been one of my favorites. I couldn't believe I got to see that version of this character again. Also, my jaw literally dropped when Chris Evans popped up as Johnny Storm. Flame on. Saw with Dane Millard. Blast grade A minus. Movie grade C. Part of the reason I chose this ticket though is the comment section because there's a little bit of a war going on.
Yeah, with JP, he's a little salty about my movie grade for this one.
Guest and friend of the pod, Jason Peterson, said, wow, what a grouch. This was a great time at the movies and the best Marvel movie in a long time. My A minus is probably too generous and may lower after repeat viewers, but a C? Come on. And you responded, womp womp JP. And I said, go Ty. Welcome to the enlightened side.
Yep. Welcome to the Mr. No Fun team.
Yeah.
But honestly, I had a great time. I caught myself smiling at so many different spots. All the cameos and cool like tidbits of this movie with the multiverse were great. Aside from that, thought it was perfectly just okay. And I don't think there's anything wrong with that. I had a good time. That's the reason for the blast and the movie grade. Got to differentiate.
Okay. Yeah, I see that, and I agreed with you. My movie grade on this was a C minus, so right there with you. My blast grade was a little lower though. It was a D, because my theater was so fucking cold. Like
I have to
couldn't
ask
stand
about
it.
this.
Yeah.
This isn't the first time this has happened to you. I feel like there's been a couple tickets or stories where you're like, yeah, theater was freezing. What fucking theater are you going to where you're going into like an ice cube?
It's always a different one, but this one was at the AMC Classic Sunnyland 10, which is Morgan's AMC in Washington, Illinois. And usually it's just me because I'm a very cold person. Like in general, I'm always just need a blanket, whatever. But this time Morgan was like suffering with me, so I knew it wasn't just a me thing. Deadpool and Wolverine does a great job at reminding you of when Marvel movies were actually fun to watch. Ends up being too long and boring to really engage me. Parentheses, Morgan fell asleep. Also, the theater we were in was 30 degrees. Saw with Morgan, blast grade D, movie grade C minus.
How much higher would the blast grade have been if it wasn't an igloo?
Probably like a C plus, B minus.
Got it. I think that's a pretty
just
good
for Blade and Johnny Storm, and maybe Elektra too. That was fun.
That was cool. And it wasn't for like I didn't have a ton of appreciation, but I can understand why people loved the Channing Tatum drop because apparently he was slated to be that character like 12 years ago.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Also, contributing to my theater experience, I was a little bit taken aback. There were probably like 40 kids like ages 7 and under at this showing.
Whoa.
Yeah. Bad parenting.
Maybe. Well, yeah, seriously. That many kids, they can't be sneaking in.
There's
I told
a
you
lot
about
of
my Deadpool story?
No.
So we were 16. Dane and I went to the theater to go see Batman vs. Superman. And we had already heard the rumblings that it wasn't great. I mean, the Rotten Tomatoes score sucked. All of our friends were like, I don't know, there's this weird Martha joke. Don't waste your time. Got to the theater to go see it. Bought the tickets for BVS. I have it somewhere in that jar.
Oh, wow.
But we got the tickets and we're walking down the aisle and saw Deadpool was starting about the same time. We're like, let's do it. Let's just go sit down. It was like one of those small theaters in NCG where there's like 10 seats. And we sat front row and watched and just had an absolute blast.
Saved yourself, man.
Yep.
Yeah, but like I think Deadpool humor is very suited for middle school, like 11, 12, 13. But these kids were like, I just can't believe it. I could not believe it, seeing them all walk in and out. Like there's some pretty harsh, dirty jokes, some gore in this movie. I don't know.
Maybe the guy at the ticket counter was just feeling a little menacing today.
Dude, no, they were holding their dad's hands and stuff.
Oh man.
So it made me feel a little bad.
Yeah, I don't know. I don't feel bad.
All right.
Shame on the parents.
Mhm.
That's all I have to say.
Okay. So did this live up to your hype? Because you, for those who are listening, Ty and I have a small bet going on what's going to be the highest grossing movie of this summer. I picked Inside Out 2. He picked Deadpool and Wolverine. So the expectations were clearly there for you. Do you think this was as good as you were hoping?
No, it was more fun than I was expecting, but it definitely wasn't as good. I think the first two Deadpools, whether you find them funny or not, are very good movies, not just
Mm-hmm.
humor porn. Like it was just not a very good movie. There's a ton of exposition. It feels very slow, which is something I'm very unfamiliar with when it comes to Deadpool.
Yeah.
Just a lot felt wrong, and it shouldn't have. So, from like a technical standpoint, I think this is the weakest of the Deadpool trilogy. But from a shock value, like cool moments perspective, it did live up and maybe even exceed my expectations.
Interesting. And I think JP hit it on the head here. I think a lot of people going back and rewatching it will lower their grade because that shock value is going to be missing after the first watch. Yeah, I agree with you on the pacing though. That was my biggest issue with it is that it felt so slow. And really like the Deadpool one I rewatched with Morgan the night before going and was reminded of how fun that movie is. Like it is really like you never get a chance to really catch your breath. It's always either a quip or an action sequence or something happening to advance this plot. And I think that they just didn't really have much going for the plot in this, which is maybe a consequence of multiverse films, like trying to essentially get like set things right. I feel like. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, I it is kind of a problem. I think James Mangold was talking about this that it becomes the crux of the movie. Like we need to have some kind of big moment because it's multiverse. We can correct the mistakes of the past instead of just making a good movie. I think there was interesting attempts for character work with Logan, but we've already been here with Logan. Like we've had
Right.
the best character work with this character. Um, it just didn't make sense. Another thing for me too that was frustrating. I don't know if maybe just because I'm getting older, I didn't catch myself belly laughing. Like I had a couple moments where I was chuckling, but the humor felt slightly redundant and slightly a little more childish than I remember it being. And maybe
It
it's just
was.
as I'm getting older, but it felt off.
It was, and I think that part of that is that it is now a Disney property.
Probably.
Mm-hmm.
Probably.
They make a lot of jokes about this being not 20th Century Fox anymore, which is interesting. And so, what do you think? I also want to ask about the Mad Max route because this kind of was a Mad Max parody for a while as well.
I was fine with it. I liked it, but they didn't reference it.
They did once or twice, I think.
Oh, the Furiosa thing.
Yeah.
Furiosa bit.
Mm-hmm.
But I thought I caught that with the camera work and the cars and stuff. That was funny. But I don't know where you're going with that. What do you mean? I don't have an issue with it.
No, just quick tangent. I just think that this was missing that X factor, I guess. And maybe it could be Colossus and Negasonic Teenage Warhead. We're not really in this movie anymore. I thought that rewatching Deadpool 1, they are some of my favorite characters in it. I think they're hilarious.
My favorite side character is Yukio from Deadpool 2.
She's awesome.
Hi, Yukio. Hi, Wade. They're my favorite. I think I was talking to Dane about this on the way home. For as funny as Deadpool 1 and 2 are, some of my favorite moments are the ones I come back to in Deadpool are the emotional story beats with Vanessa.
Mm-hmm.
Like the first Deadpool where he's staring in her eyes when he gets like the news that he has cancer.
Yeah.
And he's like trying to remember the details of her face. Or in Deadpool 2 where Take Me On is playing and he tries to like save her from the timeline. Those little moments. It was missing that emotional firepower.
Yeah. And I think that Deadpool as a character in this movie is very different than the one we get in 1 and 2 as well. Like he is I feel like in Deadpool 1 and 2 he is not really caring about being part of something bigger, which I guess is kind of shoehorned in with Vanessa in this movie.
Oh,
and
dude, he definitely is. Deadpool 2, he's trying to be an X-Man.
Yeah, but is he really? Like,
Yes.
there's always that.
Yes, it's
Okay.
it's literally the. I feel like it's even in 1. He goes there to try and recruit the X-Men. Or no, that's not 1. In 2, he's trying to be part of X-Men, and they put him on the sidelines, and he's a part of X-Force.
Right, but it just I don't know. It didn't sit right with me. Like the X Force team bit was hilarious, by the way.
Yes,
I would have loved another Bradley Cooper cameo.
Brad Pitt.
Brad Pitt,
Yeah.
nice. Um, but in general, like this one sees him as a much more generally concerned character. I feel like he cares a lot more about what he's doing. In the first one, it's very much just dumb fun. Like, let's go and take revenge on this guy. We've got the quips going the whole time, a lot of fun action scenes. But at number 2, he gets a little more serious, I think, with the timeline correction stuff and the death of Vanessa taking place fairly early in that film, if I remember correctly.
Yep.
And this one, I feel like he is fully like a different character to me.
He's a softie.
Yeah.
Grown up. One thing I noticed, maybe it's just because I haven't seen those movies in so long, does his face seem more polished and not as messed up?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, that's got to be a Disney thing. It's got to be.
It is, yeah.
Maybe more marketable. I don't know.
It doesn't make much sense to me. I love Blind Al too. Not enough Blind Al in this movie.
Yeah, I agree. It was nice seeing Colossus pop up. Like I felt like they brought back the right side characters.
Yeah.
What is his name? Not the goober.
Dopinder?
Nope. White guy with the mustache.
Oh, shit.
I know.
Can't remember.
Peter?
Peter, yes.
Yep. Okay. It was nice seeing Peter back.
He was fun.
Like that's again another thing that was missing here. In Deadpool 1, you have the opening scene where he's counting down the bullets. Mm-hmm. One of the funniest scenes I've seen in a movie ever. Deadpool 2, the X-Force scene where they all die in a matter of a minute from high winds.
Right.
What moment is that in this movie? And you may have an answer. I didn't.
I don't think I do. There's one scene that comes close-ish for me, and that's the fight with Wolverine's skeleton. I really liked that. Tearing it apart, just beating up the TVA. But one of my biggest gripes with this movie is that it's the TVA. I haven't seen Loki. I was completely fucking lost.
Oh, really? I feel like they did a fine job explaining it.
They did an okay exposition dump, but like Morgan was like, it's the Loki villains, blah, 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 and was kind of explaining to me in my ear. But I didn't buy into it. I didn't really like that villain or that choice of team villains. So I guess, what's your best, worst part of this movie?
Ooh, worst part, the exposition dumps. I feel like there were like 3 or 4 times where I felt like they were just dumping plot and dumping exposition on me at different points. A lot of the TVA stuff to get people like you caught up to speed, which is frustrating. And like the whole point of the shows were to make those fans earn those moments and earn that screen time. But whatever. I didn't really care that much. It's just like the movie felt really long for 2 hours, and I think if you cut out that exposition, this is a very crisp, like hour and 45-minute movie.
Yeah,
that's my worst part. Best part, without a doubt, were the cameos. I feel like they were done right. They picked the right cameos. I wasn't expecting this. I expected this movie to be a full-blown MCU pile-on, but it ended up kind of becoming a 20th Century Fox love letter.
Yeah,
and all the cameos kind of bled into that concept, which I appreciated. They were like cameos that almost mattered in the right way.
They should have gotten I think this was 20th Century Fox. Do you remember the Shaq superhero movie Steel?
I wouldn't know if that was 20th Century Fox, but yes, I know Steel.
Yeah, that would have been a cool cameo.
Could you imagine if fucking Shaq pops up? Saves the day.
So I did enjoy the cameos too, but towards the end, I did start to get a little tired of them, just because, I mean, this is a movie that is making fun of the MCU and in the MCU simultaneously. So it's kind of towing a line there. And at some point, I feel like the cameos become what they're making fun of. Do you know what I mean?
Give me an example of that, because I feel like they do a really good job honoring the 20th Century Fox cameos.
Like, even if it's just Blake Lively as Deadpool, Lady Deadpool.
Sure.
It's just, how many cameos can we get in here before it becomes the very thing that it's criticizing? I guess is what I'm trying to say.
Got it. Yeah, it's hard to argue that. I'm telling you, I challenge a lot of people that gave this a high movie grade to rewatch
Yeah.
and see if you're going to walk out with the same movie grade. I think a lot of what's playing into your movie grade is the blast grade in turn.
Mm-hmm.
And I fear that that's one of the parts is, I mean, I caught myself acting like a 12-year-old. Like my jaw legit dropped when Chris Evans popped up. I couldn't believe it. Blade, I yelped. It was super cool, but I was able to see past that. I've gotten older and wiser, and now can see the difference between a blast and a movie grade.
There you go. What was your favorite cameo?
Blade, without a doubt.
Same.
That might be my favorite cameo ever. I can't even explain. Like I'm getting like geeked out right now. This is my first superhero movie my dad ever showed me. Of course, like the R-rated one. Like, all right, son, sit down. Vampire killer, Blade. Fell in love with Wesley Snipes at like the ripe age of 11, and it never died. So, and just like I feel like he's been off the face of the planet.
Yeah, I haven't seen him in ages.
North of a decade, and just the last person I was expecting, even with Disney like making their own Blade movie. I just never saw this happening, so that made my day. The other one that was super cool was Cavill.
Cavill was awesome
as Wolverine.
Yes,
it was. I heard that rumor. I wasn't sure if I believed it or not, and he popped. I was like, oh shit, pretty cool.
Blade also was my favorite cameo by far, but there was one thing he said, and that was that there's only one Blade and there will only ever be one Blade. And so I'm wondering what this means for Mahershala Ali's Blade, what it means, if it's just like true fans know, or if it's like what the meaning of that is.
Right after he says that, Deadpool basically looks into the camera, like breaks the fourth wall, like who's gonna tell him?
Yeah.
So I don't know, but we were talking after the movie. That movie's been in development hell for probably 7 years. They keep dumping directors, they keep trashing the scripts.
Yep.
Mahershala Ali, I think, is pretty frustrated. So I think there's a chance it doesn't happen, especially with the MCU taking the pivot that they've done. And believe me, I'd love to talk to you about that.
They're gonna make it with Johnny Majors in like 4 years when he gets out of jail.
Oh my god, could you imagine? That's gonna be, and that's why I'm trying not to get so frustrated with the whole RDJ casting, and I'm sure we'll get there, but like that's why I don't feel that upset about it. Like they had to throw up a Hail Mary prayer because Jonathan Majors fucked up and he was supposed to be the big bad. I mean, how do you pivot from making him the linchpin of the next 3 phases? You go the Palpatine route.
Yeah,
you
I
bring
guess
back
so.
your golden goose.
God, dude, that's so bad though. Before we get to that, do you think this works as part of the MCU?
Part of the MCU, yes. Part of the Infinity Saga and that umbrella that I'm in love with, no, I don't think so. Does it work as a great send-off to 20th Century Fox? Absolutely. I love the end credits of this movie where it's the behind-the-scenes footage of all those different movies with the Green Day song.
Yeah.
It had some charm to it. It made me feel like I was a kid again. I think it works better as a Fox movie, not MCU.
Okay. I think I agree with you. It felt super disconnected from the MCU, like you said, but I mean, maybe this is the MCU we know going forwards. Where does it rank in your list?
Yep, it's not high at all. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20, 21 in my list, and it's right between Spider-Man Far From Home and Spider-Man No Way Home. And the reason Spider-Man No Way Home is above Deadpool and Wolverine, and Deadpool and Wolverine is right above Thor Love and Thunder. The reason I give No Way Home the bump over Deadpool and Wolverine, I think these movies are very similar from a shock value perspective. These movies have almost no replay value for me, but I think there was way more heart in No Way Home plugged in different spots. Aunt May's death is really good. I think the rooftop scene between the Peters is amazing, and I didn't feel any little emotional moments like that in Deadpool and Wolverine.
I think that's a great take. You did let a little soups come out of you there and give a Spider-Man No Way Home.
Spider-Man No Way Home. Spider-Man No Way Home.
God, dude,
Spider-Man No Way Home.
that takes me back to a time. I'm putting it between. I'm gonna put it at number 20, right between Shang-Chi and Guardians 3.
Okay, so you're not a Shang-Chi guy, huh?
Nah, not really, and it's a shame because I love Simu Liu, but I just can't get behind that movie. Really, I mean, that is pretty much completely CGI fights. There are
The
some
third
martial
act.
arts fun pieces of it, but like even the bus scene, like the bus is getting cut in half and blah blah blah. Like, why can't you just have one cool, good fight scene?
Fair enough. I thought the choreography in that movie was great for the first two acts, and then it feels like a CGI green screen dump fest
Yeah,
for the last 20 minutes, which is sad. I was having a good time with that one, but I don't think that's crazy. I
okay,
mean, I'm in the same spot as you. It's like it's bottom tier.
it is. And that now I guess that we got to talk about the MCU as a whole. Is this enough to save the MCU? What about the new Captain America? What about RDJ as Doom?
Well, a lot to unpack. I think that the new Captain America is going to flop. I think it's going to be really bad. That will most certainly not save the MCU. I don't think that this movie saved the MCU. It was a good watch. Like, it's going to make a ton of money. I don't think it does anything, though. It didn't do anything to move the needle. Like, there's that one moment where it teases Deadpool in the next Avengers movie because Thor's holding him as he
Right?
dives,
Yeah.
which is really cool. Like, that was a cool nugget. But I I do think that Downey Jr. is interesting because financially, it's going to save the MCU. It is going to bring in $1 billion, bringing him back. I think that this decision is the final dagger that kills the MCU. I think Marvel becomes Star Wars. This is their Palpatine play. Completely blows this thing up, and it becomes a Disney Plus nightmare for the next 10 years. And we have to explain to our kids, like, no, you don't understand how special this was for 10 years.
Interesting. So you think that it makes a ton of money, but then the like next movies don't? Like they just screw themselves over?
Yeah, so like it's a two-part deal with Downey Jr. He's got Avengers 5, Doomsday, and then Avengers 6, Secret Wars. I think that Doomsday, Downey Jr. pops up, and for whatever reason, it ends up being like the fans just they can't put it together. They can't buy into him as a different character. Downey Jr. just mails it in. Whatever it ends up being, I think that will be the final pinpoint for the fans. Like I think maybe it's the Last Jedi kind of thing with Avengers 5 and the fans split on the Downey Jr. thing. And then for Avengers 6, it's a course correct kind of play and it comes to a screeching halt.
Interesting.
I don't want to see it fall flat on its face, and I'm sure they have a plan, but it's just like it broke my heart, that news, honestly, because Endgame was the perfect bow on that Infinity Saga, on something I fell in love with as a kid. And this feels like, and I don't care what anyone says, like it's a different character, it's the multiverse, yada yada yada. It does undo Endgame for me. It like when I see him die in Endgame, I'm now gonna think, well, I get to see the same actor or this variant of this character come back in 5 years. It
Yep.
just feels gross.
It does. I think that you're probably right. I don't know if people are actually going to show up for an RDJ as a villain in this. I don't know if they will like that. I mean, he is the hero of the MCU. I think that you could maybe even get away with a Jeremy Renner as Doctor Doom, like somebody who's not. But like you said, this is the linchpin, and it feels like it's in very poor taste, and it feels like you said, going back and rewatching the Infinity Saga is now going to feel tainted by this. A lot like Star Wars. I can't go and watch The Last Jedi if I'm going to watch the rest of the saga. It taints the what's already there.
That's how I feel about Rise of Skywalker and
Yep.
then bringing back Palpatine. Okay, we just undid Return of the Jedi. We just undid Revenge of the Sith. Basically, the
Yeah.
entire George Lucas movie, the 6 movie series, it's going to have that kind of oomph to it. And that scares me. Makes me sad. Like, this was my childhood. And I get why they're doing it because who else could play Doom that's going to like drive that much interest? Like even a Cillian Murphy, I don't think can move the needle.
DiCaprio.
You're right. I don't think so. Brad Pitt, maybe.
I don't know.
Like
Probably
there's no one. Like the fact that he's attached to the MCU already.
Chalamet.
There you go. We'll bring back Denzel. Denzel will play Doom.
Chalamet as Bob Dylan as Doctor Doom.
Now we're talking.
God.
Now we're talking. So sad. Yeah, I think it's over. I don't think there's anything they can do to fix this thing. But they can do things to ruin it. And I think that this is one of those things.
It's sad, man. I mean, I loved to give Ty shit back in high school for buying into the MCU so much, and I don't know, like he'd always text me like, "Bro, you'd love this one though," and I'd go and I'd fucking hate it every time. But
you're gonna see me cry if this thing sucks and they burn it to the ground.
Can we go on opening night? Can we commit to collabing for that?
I don't want to see it with you. Honestly.
Damn it!
I don't. If it's good, I don't want to be with you.
What if it's horrible, but I love it?
I wouldn't be surprised. I'm crying, but you're like, fuck yeah.
The MCU is back. I get it now.
Fuck you.
Oh God.
I think I would actually fire you.
No, though I remember very vividly. I was at AJ's house one night in the basement, and you watched one episode of Loki that like it brought back a character or something. I can't even remember what the issue was now, but you texted me. You were like, fuck man, it's over. Like and it made me so sad. Like it's a part of not just you but a lot of my friends who have enjoyed all these movies kind of dying and fading away.
It's really sad. It's kind of the best way I'd explain it to you is it's Star Wars. Like imagine feeling this again. Like I'm getting too timed by this.
Oh man,
thanks Disney.
Then 4 years from now, you'll get a May 4th, 2020 at 3 a.m, where it comes back and you have one last moment of like, oh yeah, Feige did have a vision once upon a time.
Yeah,
it's an episode of What If. What if they didn't hire Majors? What if they didn't bring back RDJ? All the mistakes they made.
Do you think Kevin Feige is just kicking himself about that with Jonathan Majors? Like, God damn it, dude. Thanks, buddy.
They're gonna sue him, I bet.
They'll find a way. They'll find a way.
Yep.
God, that sucks.